Bringing forth a new cinematic Batman creates exciting opportunities to faithfully incorporate comic elements fans have been dying to see on the big screen for years at this point. Seeing all the references and lore James Gunn implemented in Superman, like the Superman robots, a biblically accurate Fortress of Solitude, Lex Luthor's aptitude for science that allows him to accomplish the unthinkable, we should be seeing similar treatment for the Caped Crusader, who has one of the best established mythologies in fiction. I'ma need this new Batman to have some insane performance stats in terms of his physical capabilities. This should undoubtedly be one of the most competent versions of the character in live action. While Gunn wants to stay true to the character's roots and isn't interested in a funny, campy iteration, it is still of the utmost importance to create something that is different from what Matt Reeves is doing with his Batman. An effective way of doing that would be to embrace the fantastical elements that directors have shied away from in live action movies centered on Batman for almost 3 decades, as well as reintroduce general audiences to the Bat-Family and its cast of allies. I'm very interested to see the casual moviegoer's response to a Batman who may appear to be more outlandish than what they're used to, because if you're going to incorporate this guy in a lived-in DC universe made up of metahumans and superpowered individuals, he needs to be able to hold his own in a physical encounter. I see no reason as to why this Bruce Wayne shouldn't be a top-tier martial artist and one of the smartest minds in the verse who can manufacture high-tech equipment and gadgets, without solely relying on Lucius Fox to do all the engineering for him. Obviously, I'm not saying Batman should have straight-up superpowers, but striving for realism should be the least of James Gunn's concerns. Been there, done that. Being a capable fighter should be a no-brainer if he's supposed to interact and guide a 10-year-old boy who's been trained and raised by a league of ninjas. Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's Batman in the DCEU are a good litmus test for how physically capable the character should be in a live-action movie universe where the Justice League exists. Bulletproof cowl and cape, gauntlets that can withstand Superman's heat vision for a brief period, highly advanced vehicles like the Batwing and Batmobile, highly tactical mind. The DCU's Batman should be able to do all of this in spades. Incorporating a Batman with some experience as opposed to being a newcomer is definitely the way to go, as seeing him as a father figure or mentor is something we don't get enough of in live action media. We can't have that Dookie Butt Titan show be the last installment featuring a live action Bruce Wayne who trained a couple of Robins. There's no need to skip over the other prominent Robins and have Damian Wayne be the first or second canonical Robin in the DCU. For some reason, people think Bruce Wayne having a biological son would have him significantly older than Superman when that's never been the case. Y'all acting like the dude was in his late 40s to early 50s by the time Damian was introduced to the Bat-Family. If we look at the pre-New 52 timeline, Bruce at the very oldest would be 37 by the time Damian becomes Robin, under the pretense that Bruce was around 26 when he became Batman in year 1, and that Damian was introduced canonically a few years after Tim became the third Robin. The New 52 timeline was condensed so that Damian would be brought into the mix during year 6 of Batman's career, so Bruce would be in his very early 30s. I'm not saying they should go with the New 52 timeline, but it goes to show you that whatever canonical timeline you go by, Batman isn't even 40. Clark is stated to be 30 in the Superman movie, but there could easily be a time jump of 2 or so years by the time The Brave and the Bold releases, and by that point there would only be a 5-year age difference between Batman and Superman, which is only assuming they'd make Batman 37 years old, to which they could easily make him younger. And we don't know what the time jump will be from Superman to The Brave and the Bold. The dynamic between Bruce and Damian offers plenty of room for growth for both characters. While the movie is said to take inspiration from Grant Morrison's Batman run, I do hope to see inspirations from Peter J. Tomasi's New 52 Batman and Robin run down the road, where their father and son dynamic really develops and they create a strong loving bond by the end of the series. There aren't a lot of comic issues in Grant Morrison's pre-New 52 run with Bruce Wayne as Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin together. Most of the Batman and Damian Robin dynamic in Morrison's run stems from Dick Grayson's time as Batman. Casting Damian in the DCU might be one of the hardest, if not the hardest, casting decisions in the universe. They need to find a capable actor who has the right chemistry with the Batman actor, resembles said actor to a certain degree, and be of the right age if they want to depict a 10-year-old Robin, while still meeting the physical demands of the role. The potential problem with Damian centers on how long James Gunn plans to maintain the character's youthful age. These child actors like to grow up pretty fast, especially if we're talking 3 to 4 years minimum between sequels, but I guess you'd have to assume that Damian growing both physically and mentally would be a part of the 10-year plan. As for the state of the other Robins, it's currently up in the air, but you'll undoubtedly have Dick Grayson as Nightwing. Jason Todd would have already died by this point, and you could have him already out and about as Red Hood. However, it might not be a bad idea to have Jason still presumed dead and save an Under the Red Hood type of story for a sequel, especially if you don't want to overcrowd the size of the current Bat-Family. We're all very familiar with Red Hood's story, but you can't say the same for the casual movie-going audience. For Tim Drake, they can have him be the current Robin by Bruce's side, like in the comics, or have him be heavily associated with the Teen Titans. You might think to avoid potential Bat-Family timeline issues and keep things simple, they could just integrate Robert Pattinson's Batman into the DCU, since they already have a version audiences are fond of. My response to that would be, shut your bitch ass up, nigga. My response to that would be, I respectfully disagree. Some say having two different Batman simultaneously would not only confuse audiences, it would also create the risk of them not even liking or gravitating towards the DCU Batman. Sure, that might be a valid concern to have, but I don't think there's been a theatrical Batman actor that casual viewers have disliked since George Clooney in 1997. Even when it comes to movies like Batman v Superman or The Flash that have received poor or mixed reception, the Batman side of things is never the main catalyst for the reception those movies received. People liked Ben Affleck as Batman and thought he was good casting. While I've seen many criticisms towards The Flash, I don't recall a lot of people taking issue with Michael Keaton as Batman. Some say he was the best part of that whole movie. More importantly, Matt Reeves never intended for his Batman to be a part of an outlandish, unapologetically comic book universe filled to the brim with superhumans. That's not an assumption or an educated guess, that's just a straight up fact. He's gone on record so many times saying how his movies will never go fully fantastical in terms of how Batman related characters are portrayed. There have already been established metahuman villains as a part of Batman's rogues gallery in the DCU. There's even more evidence to suggest the lack of fantasy elements in the Reeves verse with the Clayface movie. Writer Mike Flanagan had originally pitched his Clayface horror movie to be a part of the Matt Reeves Batman universe. However, as we know, the movie ended up being a part of the DCU. Why? Because the character per James Gunn wouldn't have fit in Matt Reeves' more grounded crime saga, and was very much outside the non-super meta-human characters in Matt's universe. Pattinson could become more capable of dealing with superpowered threats because he's only in year 2. He usually doesn't deal with the more powerful villains until much later into his career. This simply isn't true. Batman dealt with supernatural foes like Man-Bat, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze before his 3rd year of crime fighting. Bruce also encountered mystical elements during his training before becoming Batman. The Long Halloween, one of the stories the Batman took massive inspiration from in terms of its narrative, has Batman fighting the likes of Solomon Grundy and Poison Ivy. The same year 2 Batman who fought a giant mechanical dinosaur and kept it as a trophy in the Batcave. Year 1 Batman dealt with Hugo Strange and his experimental monster men who were kidnapped asylum residents made to do his bidding. The same year 1 Batman who also fought an evil vampire. I don't know where this narrative comes from that Batman wasn't capable of dealing with supernatural threats early into his career. More importantly, why would Batman only come into contact with metahumans 4 to 5 years into his career as Batman if metahumans have been public knowledge in the DCU for 300 years? Do you think they'd only reside in areas like Metropolis or Pokolistan? No. On top of that, Batman's intelligence doesn't go from a decent detective to super genius on par with Lex Luthor and Mr. Terrific. That foundation is embedded into his training in early years as a crime fighter. We're only 3 years into Superman's career, and Lex was able to recreate the Big Bang and make a pocket universe. Mr. Terrific has a flying saucer and high-tech T-spheres that can project holograms and create force fields. Mr. Grounded in reality doesn't even have a traditional Batcave or a Batwing. Don't get it twisted, I like what Matt Reeves is doing. I love the Batman, I love the Penguin. I like the direction he's taking the characters, but because I like what he's doing, I'd rather see the vision executed on his own terms, not tainted by anything outside of that. Year 2 Batman in a fantastical universe would be far more capable than a Year 2 Batman of a more realistic, down-to-earth universe akin to what Matt Reeves is doing. There's no way you're gonna look me dead in the eyes with a straight face and tell me he's capable of doing any of this. I've seen people make comparisons to other superhero projects to justify a potential merger between the Batman movies and the DCU. One prominent example I've seen is how the Netflix Daredevil series had a very dark, gritty, street-level tone, yet the character eventually interacted with other MCU characters outside the Defender shows like She-Hulk and Spider-Man. First of all, I don't know why people act as if the tone is the sole reason people point out the issues with Pattinson interacting with David Cornsweet's Superman. The Batman movies having a much grittier tone and setting is a non-issue. The situation with Daredevil is a nonsensical comparison because the very first episode of Daredevil cements itself as being a part of the wider MCU. They literally mention the Battle of New York and the Shatari invasion.
Incident, is that what we're calling it now?
Sounds so much better than death and destruction raining from the sky, nearly wiping Hell's Kitchen off the map.
Secondly, the protagonist of Daredevil is a blind dude with ninja training and supernatural senses. He can hear across city blocks and catch the scent of someone's perfume from several stories away in an apartment building. The same year Daredevil Season 1 premiered, Netflix also released the first season of Jessica Jones, where the protagonist of that show can heal faster than most people, has super strength, and can jump really high. The main villain Kilgrave literally has mind control powers. Luke Cage was also introduced in that season, a guy with bulletproof skin and super strength. Please present any evidence of anything even remotely similar to what I just listed appearing in the Batman or the Penguin. At this point, if I see the announcement of the Batman being a part of the DCU's canon, I'm gonna straight up dwork on camera acting a fool. Having the DCU's Batman be a separate thing is not as complicated as people try to make it out to be. If Matt Reeves had been interested from the jump in incorporating fantastical elements into his movies, that'd be one thing. But that's clearly not the case. The DCU Batman probably will be and should be a powerhouse akin to his comic counterpart. Even outside the comics, there are several renditions that embrace the mythic, surreal elements while still maintaining a darker tone. The DCAMU, the DCAU, the Arkham series, and several standalone animated movies over the years as examples. Despite being DC's biggest cash cow, there are still many elements that have gone unexplored in theatrical Batman movies. The DCU has the opportunity to give us one of the most faithful versions ever put to screen.